In this video, we are going to go over how to lay out your pattern pieces so that you can cut out your fabric. So you're going to go to your pattern guide sheet, and in the cutting layout section right here, there are 3 adult layouts. I'm going to put this down real quick. So here we have 10 adult layouts. There's 1, 2, and then 3 over here, and it all depends on your size. You should have circled the one that goes with the size you're doing. So this is extra small or small, which I will be doing in the video. Medium, this is the layout you're going to be using. Or if you're doing a large, this is the layout you're doing over here. And then you also have to remember that pieces 4 and 5 are either going to be on a different fabric if you got separate fabric, or you're just going to add them onto the end like I drew over here as you do that. When you lay out your pattern, you're going to start on either the left or the right, and you're going to work your way over. So I started on the left. You can kind of see here, I have my pants, one here, then I have a pocket, another pair of pants, and then I need to put another pocket, and then I need to figure out where my 4 and 5 go. There's also piece 6, which is this long skinny thing, and this is just for the elastic. So it just says waist elastic guide. So I'm not actually going to cut this out of my fabric. I'm just going to put it off to the side for my elastic later. So you can see I've already laid out 1 and 2 and 3. I had to make a copy of my pocket, you'll remember, because you need to lay out the pocket twice, but you only have 1 pattern piece. So I made a copy, or you could just like cut it out once and then move it over. The most important thing is that you lay everything out first so you know that there's enough space, and then you're going to go and measure the distance from the shade of green arrow to the selvage at the left side and the right side to make sure it's the same distance so that we know it's parallel. Once you do that, you can pin everything down, and then you're done with your layout. So we'll go through, I'll finish laying everything out so you can kind of see it better, and then I will practice measuring a couple things, and then you can do the rest on your own. Another thing to note is that if you have directional fabric. So directional fabric means there's a clear top and bottom. Like this pattern that I drew right here, this was on your fabric. This is directional because there's balloons that should be at the top and feet should be at the bottom. If it were like this, it would clearly be upside down, right? So if I'm cutting out my pajama pants, I want to make sure that the top of my pajama pants is the same way the top of my pattern is, just like my flowers, my top is over here, and then so my top of my pajama pants is going this way, and my bottom is going this way. If I were to cut out my pattern on like a piece or on a fabric like this, I would have upside down backs on my pajama pants. So it's important to pay attention to where the top is and where the bottom is. So I'm gonna lay my pattern guide sheet, this guy right here. I'm gonna lay it out just like my fabric is. So my fabric has the selvages up there, and my fold down here, just like my pattern guide sheet here. So I will lay this next to it so I can see that easily. You won't be able to see it anymore, but I can. And I'm just gonna follow that. So I already have 1, and I have 2 here, and I have 3. So I need to put out my other 3, my 4, and my 5, and then I'll measure the arrows. So my pattern guide sheet has this piece 3 in gray, and that tells me that the printed side of my pattern should be upside down. So I'm gonna fold it, put it upside down, and I'll put it in this spot right here. That's where it tells me it should go. And then I have 4 and 5, and I'm using all the same fabric, so I will just put them on here. If you have a different fabric for your leg band and your waistband, you're gonna put them on a different fabric. But I will just put them where they fit best. I'm doing the small size, so really I only need to there, like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this here so I can save fabric. And then again, I'm doing small, so I only need to about here and here. That's my small line. So I could put that right here and save all this extra fabric in case I need another pocket or something goes wrong. So I will save this. Okay, now I need to measure my arrows. And what I'm talking about when I measure my arrows is I have this straight of grain arrow right here, and I'm going to measure the distance from the arrow on one side to the selvage, which is about 6.5 inches, and then from the other side to the selvage, which is about 6.5 inches. I've actually already measured this one and pinned it in place, but once I measure that and I know it's 6.5 on both sides, I'm gonna pin it. The 6.5 isn't what matters. What matters is that it's the same measurement. So we'll do the same thing over here, and I will measure on this pocket. That is about 13.25 inches, and then this one is 13.5 inches. So I need to straighten that out. I'm gonna move this to 13.25, right there, and then I'll move my pattern piece so that it matches. Then I'm going to, once I measured and they're both the same distance, I'm going to put a pin on either end of my arrow. And I'll move on to the next piece. I'm going to go through and do every single piece. After I do every single piece, I will go through and mark the rest of my pattern pieces. This one I can also measure to the fold if I would like. So I could go to the fold, and that's 5 inches. And I'll just put a pin there so I know my 5 inches isn't going to move. And then I'll go over here, and I want this to be 5 inches as well. So I want it to be the same distance. That tells me it's parallel. I mean, it tells me that for as long as this arrow goes, if it were to go forever and ever, and if my selvage were to go forever and ever, and my fold were to go forever and ever, they would always be the same distance apart and they would never touch. Okay? You'll also notice that my pattern piece is hanging off a little bit over here, and that is because I'm doing a small. And I'm actually going to pull it in just a little bit because my small is even sticking off. But over here is the medium, large, extra large. I'm just doing a small, so I don't need all of that, but I will pull it in just a little bit. Make sure that my pattern is on. And I'll measure that again. So we're going to go to about 5.5 here on the right side for you. And then I want it to be 5.5 over here again. So I'll pull it out, 5.5 there, and I'll pin it. The pin just tells me that it's not going to move after I do that. So I would go through and do the rest of these. I'm not going to do them for the sake of time in the video, but you would pin this one and this one and this one, and you'd go through and do them all before you pin the rest of it down, because if you have to move anything, it's kind of a pain if you have everything pinned down. So once I know everything's where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in each corner. So for whatever piece you do, you put a pin in each corner. You want it to be inside the cutting line, so this is extra small, this is small, that's where I'm cutting. Medium, large, extra large, I don't need, so I don't want to pin on those. So I'm going to do inside the cutting line of the size I'm doing. I'm going to go around and do all the corners, and then I will go and put a pin every 2 to 3 inches, or probably like 3 to 4 inches. Especially on curves, like over here, I'll probably put a few extra in because your fabric or your pattern just tends to move more on curves. But then the rest of it I will just do every 3 to 4 inches. Once you get everything pinned down and measured, you're good to be checked off by the teacher.